We've been talking about healthy relationships. We've been talking about healthy conflict. We've been talking about what's in our control, what's out of our control, and where you even want to go. How are we going to align to that true identity instead of what's been put in front of us all this time, or even what social norm expectations and societal expectations put upon us. But what's interesting along this process, and I found this too over the last couple of years of my burnout recovery, is that keeping the peace was harder than I thought. As a natural people pleaser, when I started my burnout recovery and started establishing healthy boundaries, 70% of the people left my life. And I'm talking the ones that hurt. So close family, close friends, work relationships ended that I had for a very long time, and we've been through the ringer together. When I stopped people pleasing everyone, the giver, and they were no longer receiving, that relationship was broken. And I didn't realize it was so broken before that even happened, that I was always giving, and never receiving from them. So once I stopped giving to them, they went away. They no longer had a need to be around me, and that was painful, especially because I was going through burnout recovery and really needed support, especially because a tribe that I thought would be there when things get rough was not. And there was many traumatic life situations that happened in that time frame in which those people that I thought would be there were not. And I continued on. I continue on as the optimist, as the person trying to be happy and bubbly and moving into my best self. And you just continue all that mindset work. And I was so glad that I was doing that mindset work and all that self-growth, because I don't think I would have made it, because I was alone. I was a lone wolf as everyone started leaving me, as everyone was judging and saying you've changed. And they weren't saying it in a inspiring way. They were saying it as an insult. And during that time, that really dark season in the recovery, I found myself fighting for peace. And the interesting thing is, how are you going to protect that? And I didn't realize that was going to be part of the recovery. I knew that I was going to have to work on mindset. Even though I already had a natural good mindset, this was some hard traumatic stuff I was going through. So I was working on mindset. I was working on self-growth. I was surrounding myself around new people that energize me, and books and podcasts, and taking time to sign off work and just be around my kids and support my kids and just keep going for my kids. And so I was doing all the hard things. But what I didn't realize is how difficult and challenging it was to protect the peace. Here's why. When you try to protect the peace, whose peace are you protecting? And I was a natural people pleaser, so I was protecting everyone else's peace. I wanted to keep the peace with everyone in case eventually they see what's going on. Eventually, if they hit a growth moment, they're like, oh man, I should probably just, talk to Kelly, because now I get it. Now I know what she was going through. And because I was making people so uncomfortable with my new style, my new lifestyle, I didn't realize that I was protecting their peace at the sacrifice of mine. And I was spending so much energy exuding out and still giving to these people that I wouldn't even take advice from at this point. That if they said something to me, I wouldn't even believe it, because there was so much distrust there after they disappeared. And I found out that I was just giving and never receiving from them. So it was an interesting shift that I didn't realize I was going to have, and a fight that I didn't know that I needed to have. That when you protect your peace, it needs to be not at the cost of your own. If you want to keep relationships and work on relationships, I think that's fantastic. I think that so many of us could grow together instead of alone. But don't do it at the sacrifice of yourself. I would still go to certain functions, and even though they know that I'm gluten-free or don't drink alcohol anymore or can't have high sugars because of all my digestive failure around burnout, they would be pushing it down my throat and teasing me about it. And at some point, I just stopped going. I was still going to try to mend these relationships and continue these relationships that I thought were strong and had a long time. But every time I would go, a little piece of me would break down again. All that work I was doing was going backwards. And I only wanted to go forwards, and they weren't supporting that. So again, I was trying to protect the peace by going to these things and having these conversations, and they were the toxic piece in my energy management, in which I was hanging out with them at a cost of me. And so it's important to realize that this battle will come in some form or another, and it might be light or it might be heavy. Mine was heavy, and I think it was heavy because I just was fighting the reality of it. I was battling a reality that was there. I was telling myself this isn't happening, that they'll understand, they'll see me getting healthy again, clear skin, my hair is growing back, digestively, I'm starting to eat food again, and I'm moving out of this burnout state, this survivorship state, and they're going to see that, let's support Kelly, she's looking good, and it just didn't happen. And at that point, I should have shifted to protect my peace instead of trying to keep the peace between us. And so I wanted to put that into the burnout community because it was a reality shift to me that I had to battle for my own peace. That naturally there are people who will not want to change and want you in that safe space of where you were before. And it was an interesting battle that I didn't think I would have to have. Because I generally want people to do better. That's why there's a lot of content out here, because I want you to do better. And there's a lot of people that do not want that they want things to stay the same, that they don't want you to change. So be respectful of people and understand that people do change and people do grow. It wasn't everyone, but it was 70% of people that I was just pouring into that I should have never sacrificed the little pieces of momentum and energy that I had to them when I already knew that what the result was going to be. So when you want to protect the peace, please don't do it at the cost of yourself.